Hello and welcome, casters, to the top 8 of today's webcam Elestrals tournament. I am once again the Law, here with my co-host Kate Cray.
Hello.
For those of y'all who were with us for the last webcam event, it's gonna look a little familiar, as it was in fact our finals of the last webcam event. We've got Adrian facing off against Trishula in top 8. Absolutely incredible.
Yep, and if you're Trishula, not only do you feel the pressure of going against someone who has gone undefeated all day today, but also to the person who you lost to in finals last tournament.
You have a pretty good idea of what your opponent is on, just because you kind of know how they think. It looks like Trish is going to opt for the expend to draw as well here, opting to take it a little bit slower, sets 2 and passes back. It's a mirror situation out here.
Yeah, he said, I liked your play. I think I'll do it for myself, actually. And when your opponent expends, I feel like it makes it a little bit easier to justify expending yourself, possibly getting something that you didn't have in your opening hand. And we see Adrian setting the Viserys, immediately getting hit by this PTA.
That PTA is going to be absolutely killer, because not only are you taking a 5 attacker off of your opponent's board, but with Viserys specifically, taking Viserys out of the rotation means that whenever you see that second one later in the game, it is just a 5 attacker. It doesn't really have any big threat that can come down, as it's now been knocked down to 2 copies per deck.
Yeah, barring something like Rise from the Ashes, Viserys is now only a single engine right now.
Yeah, Dratagwa coming down here from Trishula, that's going to allow him to get back those 2 water spirits that he's expended over the course of the last couple of turns here. Being a 1/4, it's not too difficult to out this Dratagwa at this particular junction, but also you're attacking with the Dratagwa into 3 back row. You don't really want to waste the back row on the Dratagwa here, so you're most likely just taking the damage.
You don't want to start bumping up this Dratagwa. It actually is a really great Elestral to send out into an empty board.
Notably, down comes the Eddie. I would imagine that Adrian is not looking to use Eddie's effect. As a matter of fact, yeah, well, here comes down. It is going to be properly enchanted, but I imagine the Eddie is probably not using its effect, as putting the Dratagwa to defense means that you wouldn't be able to out it at this stage.
Yep.
And looks like he is, in fact, going to try to swing the Eddie over to Dratagwa, and that is going to connect.
Even though the board is empty, must be feeling pretty good. Basically got to expend for free, sending out a Viserys of his own.
Oh, that Viserys is absolutely going to be killer here. You'd imagine that Adrian has to have some kind of back row, but looks like no PTA has come out from this. So Trish is going to be able to swing it into the Eddie. The question is, there's the Tsunami. Okay, so there is an answer on the board for it. Tsunami, a card that we haven't really seen a whole lot of today. A lot of players opting to kind of drop it with the mounting Rise of 5s.
Yeah, but that really highlights how valuable Tsunami is. And
oh, the Cryoblast!
Getting hit by the Cryoblast, again, shutting down this Viserys engine, because now both players only have 1 in their decks.
Absolutely, and Adrian is going to follow that up with the Funny Bunny, the Astrabbit. Going to get to look at the top 3 of his deck, try and see if he can find something to help push this advantage forward right now.
It is very interesting, because you would assume if one was a PTA, if one was a Gorgons, we might have seen that right there.
The Astrabbit, while it is a good play this early, I don't think that Trishula would want to burn what has become one of the most impactful runes in this current metagame, with Galaxy running around. Like to block the rabbit effect, though it absolutely was an option for him there. Trishula going to follow it up immediately by dropping the Eddie with that Ed, and Edward from the New Shattered Stars. Looks like he is considering opting for the Edward effect to put Adrian's Eddie into defense here.
Okay, very interesting. I was expecting maybe a swing over the rabbit, but instead going for Adrian's
Earthquake!
Oh, well, he was not worried about the rabbit. That would explain that.
I guess not. It's actually a really smart play there to go ahead and Earthquake the Rabbit. You're playing around the defensive Tsunami that you do know that Adrian plays, as he's already revealed one Tsunami this game. Definitely a heads-up play out of Trishula, and has put him back into a dominant position with this. But down comes the Specterus. That's a card we have seen a lot of today.
It's the tournament of Specterus, even the year of Specterus, many people are saying. And he's looking very intimidating going into this Eddy.
I have to imagine that he has something in the back row to potentially answer the Specterus, maybe even a Tsunami that can put it into defense. And that's exactly what's going to come down. Tsunami putting that Specterus into defense position, meaning that now it is going to be a lot easier to clean up from Trish's position. Trish immediately goes for, I think, an expend draw here.
That's what that looks like. Yep.
That's exactly what happened here.
It actually is fun to point out at this point in the game. Okay, Eddy is going to swing. But actually, in the finals last time, with these two exact same casters, there was, and that one is a shield. Looks like Eddy is getting shielded back to hand. But both casters had back row that sat around the entire game. Turns out they had both separately set Cryoblast as a bluff.
You have to imagine that at least one of those, it has to be live here. Quackle coming down out of Adrian. The question is that going to be enough to warrant going for a Gorgon's Gaze to stop that heal? As we've seen in their previous match with Adrian, that heal out of Quackle can be absolutely devastating if allowed to go long term.
Heal is incredibly powerful, and it does in fact go through, and Adrian has a significant spirit advantage at this point. But like you said, Trishula has 4 back row. We've got to have something here. Possibly another Tsunami would deal with this incoming attack.
I'd imagine it's got to be, yeah, there it is, the Tsunami, putting both the Quackle and the Specterus to defense. And it just comes down to, does Trish have the answer? It looks like Trishula is going to go for the Ambrosia here to heal back 3. Looks like he's getting back a Leviathan, and I didn't catch what the last one there was, but is immediately going to follow up with a Cryoblast to take out that Specterus, and an Eddy to then clean up that the remaining Quackle. With no back row, you have to imagine that this is going to put Adrian in absolutely do or die position on these top decks.
Yes, that was just like what we were saying. This is the turn that Trishula can make a comeback, not be contested by that back row. And Adrian is taking the opportunity to bring out Galaxy, making Eddy not much of a threat at all.
Yeah, drops Eddy to a 1-4, unfortunately, which is more than easy enough for the Galaxy to walk over. But Adrian also dropping the Zeus here. I'd imagine that the Zeus is specifically for in case Trishula has that Gorgon's Gaze in the battle step, as we've seen so often. That way, Galaxy, no matter what, is going to be able to clear this Eddy.
And this is a play that we saw from Adrian in the last tournament, in the finals, actually, this Zeus to play around Gorgon's Gaze.
Absolutely, and it looks like it will work there. Galaxy will be able to walk over the Eddy with Zeus already set up in the back line, but down comes the Lavalith!
Oh, time.
No! Lavalith able to clear up one of the back row. I imagine Trishula's probably looking at that Zeus. That Zeus is looking mighty yummy for the Lavalith. Adrian taking a minute to think, and it looks like the Gorgon's Gaze is going to come out of them. So Trishula absolutely targeted the Zeus there.
But still, Lavalith being on board, this is a big body. This is something that Adrian is going to have to find a way to deal with. And with 3 set over on Trishula's side, I'm thinking he might have an answer here. Although a Quackle coming down again, allowing Adrian to potentially heal another 3. Trishula thinking about it.
I imagine Trishula has to let this through because the Gorgon's Gaze needs to be saved for specifically the Galaxy in case Adrian does try to make a push forward with it. So that, unfortunately, for Trishula here is going to be another 3 spirits back for Adrian, as Adrian is already down to 8 spirits. Without those Quackles, he'd be at 2.
And here comes that disenchant from Zeus, lowering that Lavalith down to a 3 attack.
And looks like Adrian is going to attempt to get the Galaxy in over the Lavalith here. It's do or die time. Does Trishula have the Gorgon's Gaze for the Galaxy? You have to imagine. And oh no, the Shield of Achilles coming down here. Oh no, so that probably means Trishula does not in fact have the Gorgon's Gaze set.
So I wonder if Trishula is going to send out something that threatens specifically the Galaxy coming back in, or sending out an Astrabbit looking for something, maybe that Gorgon's Gaze. I don't know if we're going to see Trish set anything. Does not seem like it. So I'm thinking he didn't get that Gorgon's Gaze.
Probably not here, but Adrian is going to take 2 spirits worth of damage, one from the attack of Lavalith over the Quackle here, and another from the Rabbit hitting direct. I imagine that he could very much clean up this game state a bit. Looks like Arcolith is coming down. Oh no! Trishula having Arcolith come down on the board right now is absolutely critical, as not only will that pump up Arcolith's damage with its own re-enchant, but also will potentially give Adrian additional procs of Zeus. Trishula taking a good amount of time to think about this. Looks like he's gonna go for the poison-tipped arrow, very notably paying off of Rabbit, which drops the Arcolith down to a 4 attacker and also makes it to where it no longer has an easy walkover target for a bunch of damage, as Astrabbit is no longer on the board. But the fact that Adrian is still loading them onto the Arcolith kind of tells me he might have a Mount Olympus in hand to buff it, or he's still going to look at going with the Zeus play here to drop the Lavalith down so that Arcolith can in fact walk over this Lavalith.
Yeah, he did put one of those Thunder Spirits onto the Zeus. So that does look, in fact, like what he's going to do. We see the disenchant, and Lavalith goes down, and now Trishula still has to pay a lot of spirits to pop this Arcolith, and
he's going to have to pay 4. He doesn't have enough. He has to take 2 off of the Lavalith hit, and then unfortunately has to pass on expending for the PTA kill. He doesn't have enough spirits left. Looks like he's going to spend his last spirit in Spirit deck to bring out the Astrabbit, and that's going to eat a Gorgon's Gaze, and I think that's all she wrote.
I think that's game 1.
Trishula apparently is going to be going first into this game. Makes sense, losing the last one. He definitely wants to take that first crack. And that first crack he will take with the Funny Bunny, the Astrabbit. As we've seen more and more players on these good stuff decks opting to go for an expend a draw in their open, seeing Astrabbit just completely skips that step, as you can maintain the spirit on your board and get to pick what you want to play.
Exactly, and creating a wall that something, for example, like Eddie is going to have to deal with coming out, going to be able to move that Astrabbit into attack, but we see a PTA coming out on Trishula's side.
Oh, that PTA is also going to make this a little bit awkward for Adrian here. He has to consider whether or not he wants to crash the Eddie now, but I imagine he would, as he's probably going to lose the Eddie at the end of the turn to the PTA if he doesn't.
It dies anyway, so might as well take that Astrabbit off the board for Trishula as well.
Yeah, it doesn't have to expend the extra spirit with Adrian going for the crash. But Trishula following it up with another Funny Bunny, the Astrabbit. Getting another hand sculpt here is absolutely incredible. And you have to imagine that if Adrian has the PTA in the back line, he'd fire it. But no, it's actually going to be the Gorgon's Gaze here. Stopping this hand sculpt out of the Astrabbit and leaving it stranded in attack position for a quick and easy cleanup.
Absolutely. He knows that he cannot let Trishula start forming his hand, getting all of these answers. And Adrian casting out a Jolton, going to be searching out a Stadium rune, possibly in Atlantis?
I would have to think it had to be a Mount Olympus here. Adrian is on so many big Thunder cards, and yes, it is the Mount Olympus.
Very true.
It's not going to be a favorable trade for Trishula here for most back row, unless that back row is specifically Tsunami here. I would imagine this Astrabbit is going down.
I think you're probably right there. And we see the swing. Trishula just going to let Bunny go down.
Yeah, there goes the Bunny. It's unfortunate, but the bunny can only be so funny. With the knowledge that there is a Mount Olympus in your opponent's hand means that Jolton can easily become a 5 at a moment's notice. Eddie's going to come down and attempt to put that Jolton into defense so he can try to clean it up, it seems. And looks like that effect is in fact going to go through. No PTA, no Gorgon's Gaze. You have to imagine that there might be a shield, but nope. Eddie is going to in fact clean up that Jolton and is going to pass back to Adrian.
It makes me think that with getting that Mount Olympus, Adrian might be cooking something, and that something here is a Specteris, which is coming out.
Absolutely. I would have to agree with you. This has been the tournament of Specteris. Specteris once again hitting the board at a bare minimum being a 5 attack Elestral, but in many cases that suppression actually coming in absolutely clutch. Adrian following it up with a Mount Olympus play, even though he doesn't already have a Thunder in the play. You have to imagine that might be telegraphing an Altar of Stars play here in the future.
That might simply be a Nexus Bank that we are looking at.
Oh, but that Nexus Bank is going to bite him in the rear. Oh, resting on your laurels.
Immediate punish.
Immediate punish for developing that Mount Olympus, and absolutely going to come out and clear up this board state here. Trishula now looking with an Elechick here to try and develop some real advantage.
And taking advantage of that Mount Olympus as well.
The second Gorgon's Gaze coming down out of Adrian. Gonna stop Trishula from being able to develop that Divine Rune. Whatever it might be, whether it's a Demeter or a Zeus, I'd have to imagine one of the two.
Even with the Gorgon's Gaze, that is a 5 attacking Elechick that's sitting on the board because of that Mount Olympus.
Absolutely. Adrian looking to play Ambrosia here is going to cast out a Spirit deck. I thought that there might be a chance that he'd pay off of that Mount Olympus to take away that 5 stat, but still absolutely a great card to see here. Adrian recovering back a bunch here. Notably grabbing back a Flurmind. You have to imagine that might mean that there's a Cryoblast in the near future, but if there was a Cryoblast, I guess the Cryoblast could still clear up this Elechick.
Yep, that's coming out right now. And Elechick is going to be taken care of. No wonder Adrian didn't really care about getting rid of that Mount Olympus.
That is absolutely fair here. It does look like Adrian past that is going to go for an expend to draw. Doesn't look like he has an Elestral he can develop at this point. You have to imagine it's either runes that are bricking up his hand, or it might even be that Arcolith that he can't do anything about. Trishula also opting for an expend to draw here, is going to proceed to set, and I believe pass it back to Adrian.
Okay, so we have a bit of a stagnant middle here, waiting for something to happen, and that something is a Toxeon from Adrian. And Trishula gonna be taking that burn, maybe?
I love this Scorpion so much. But unfortunately, yes, this is going to just start eating away at Trishula's Spirit deck. And that Toxeon is actually currently sitting at 5 attack thanks to that Mount Olympus. So it's not going to be an easy one to out here.
The only one that feels reasonable here would be a Tsunami. But it seems like Trishula is just going to take that damage. And we are going over to Trishula for his turn.
Very regularly, the Thunder guys have 4 attack as their base stat, meaning that under Mount Olympus, they are going to be 5s. But down comes the Galaxy here, putting a 5 of his own on the board. Trishula is attempting to try and get some kind of a follow-up here. It looks like Elechick wasn't even needed. The Zeus coming down directly after. And you have to wonder, did Trish already have the Zeus in hand and baited the Elechick negation?
We might be seeing something spicy going on here.
Yeah, unfortunately with the Mount Olympus here, Galaxy would only crash with the Toxeon if it's a Gorgon's Gaze set.
Unless
there's an Altar of Stars. It looks like it is an Altar of Stars. As
that is something spicy.
Yeah, we did actually take a guess at that Altar of Stars earlier. Maintaining spirits on board, not having to go for something. But Trishula immediately following it up with a Gorgon's Gaze onto that Toxeon, meaning the Nexus is no longer legal. Meaning that unfortunately, nothing is going to happen here, as Adrian did choose to pay for the Altar out of the Spirit deck. meaning that this is going to just go through. Galaxy is going to be able to continue to walk over that Toxeon, and Adrian is going to lose every last bit of his board presence that he's built up outside of specifically the Mount Olympus. Absolutely wonderful play, keeping that Gorgon's Gaze locked and loaded, ready to help cut off the altar, but unfortunately down comes the Earthquake, and as such, down goes the Whale.
No playing around Earthquake, unfortunately. He seems to show up. Same with the Laurels.
Yeah, but I mean, every player is playing Earthquake. You have to imagine that it's going to show up a number of times through a game. Down comes the Quackle here, recovering 3 Thunder yet again out of Adrian, and very notably is a 3/4 under this Mount Olympus. So this Quackle actually does have a little bit of bulk to him, which is going to be a little bit harder to out on Trishula's end, dropping down to 5 spirits left in Spirit Tech.
It seems like there's just a pass based on that hand gesture. Yep.
Yeah, that is unfortunate, but he is getting a little too low to go for those expend draws. And down comes the Bunny, who is quite funny. It's looking like it might be a bit of a do or die situation for Trishula.
Yeah, especially with Quackle coming out, being able to recover Adrian a little bit. Bunny coming out, like you said, being able to buff up the hand that he hasn't had too many cards in. And now Trishula having to deal with these 2 Elestrals, which it's not like he wants to play a Tsunami. You don't want to move that rabbit to defense right now.
It looks like he might be in a really tough situation here. The lower his spirit count gets with this, the less his back row is going to matter in the long term. I imagine he's going to go for the expend a draw again. I imagine he's searching for that Ambrosia. Can't really get back into this game without said Ambrosia. It looks like he is going to set another card and pass. I'd have to imagine that's Tsunami, as that's the only way he's staying in this game.
Yeah, Tsunami.
Oh, and there goes the Gorgon's Gaze on the re-enchantment of Rabbit, which is really a heads-up play, paying off of the Zeus so that this Rabbit does not get the search off and the damage. Adrian gonna follow suit by siphoning off that extra spirit from the Rabbit for Ambrosia, gonna bump his spirit count back up, and it looks like Trishula is just gonna scoop it up. There's nothing he can do from here.